in just a few short days, we will be upon Chag HaShavuos. And while that obviously is upon the minds of everybody, as we can tell, because there's a significant amount of people that are tuning in via the satellite remote network that has Baruch Hashem been created in order to give everybody the opportunity to participate in the shir. Does parenting and Kabbalas HaTorah, does it relate to one another in specifically the regard of women and mothers? And I think that it's quite clear in the preparation for Kabbalas HaTorah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu in Parshas Yisro, as they also begin these final preparations, Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu as follows. Vayikra Hashem Elav min ha'har le'mor, Hashem called out to Moshe from the mountain saying, Kol somar lebeis Yaakov. This is what you should say to the Beis Yaakov, which is translated as Beis Yaakov, or the house of Jacob, or we know that it's not Jacob, it's Yaakov, Beis Yaakov. I went over to a boy this morning, I said, good morning, Jacob. He says, Rebbe, you mean good morning, Yaakov. And I smiled, and he wanted me to give him a hug, but I didn't. The Sagei L'Bnei Yisrael, and tell to the Bnei Yisrael. And Chazal tell us that when it says that Hashem's commanding Moshe to address the Beis Yaakov and the Bnei Yisrael, the Beis Yaakov refers to the women. These are the women, and you speak to them, you talk to them in a very soft type of a terminology, one that has compassion, understanding, and kindness. While the Sagei, the Bnei Yisrael, is a more sterner way of expressing oneself, and that is, those are the men. And probably this is the source why the girls' schools in most cities are called Beis Yaakov, is the source of this pasuk. Because this pasuk says Beis Yaakov refers to women. There's exception in Chicago, boys' schools called Beis Yaakov. I think that in Detroit, the girls' schools called Yeshiva Beis Yehuda. But I think that they're slowly advancing with the times. Yeah, now it's called Yeshiva Tzvi, but originally Beis Yaakov was the entire system. But it's always good to say something interesting that wakes up the tzibur, especially before Shavuot, and we're thinking about that long night staying up. But that we see very clearly that there was a directive to the women before Matan Torah in preparation for Matan Torah. And I'm not exactly sure if it was like a little recipe corner about what they're going to, the blintzes that they're going to have when the men stay up, 2 nights from now. I mean, this apparently in the Kabbalas HaTorah, in the acceptance of the Torah, there was a Torah that was going to be given to the women. There was something in it for them at Har Sinai that applied to the Beis Yaakov. And I think that it's important in our approach to parenting, and particularly in our approach to summer parenting, for us to realize that there's some type of Torah that was given to us that seems to guide everybody's lives. The Torah tells us how to live from the moment we're born till 120 years, from the moment we wake up till the moment we go to sleep. It's for men, it's for women, it's for Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim. It's for everyone that is part of the ranks. Anyone that stood on that mountain and said Nasa v'Nishma has a part in that Torah. And the question really is, what is that Torah? Let's try to search for this Torah, because this Torah is going to guide us through the summer. We drove from New York, for a simcha, and you just need a map. You need a map. If you want to get from point A to point B, if there's construction, you need to know how to get off the road, back onto the road. You need a map, and the map that we have to guide us throughout, as we stand on the threshold of Kabbalas HaTorah, is the Torah. Is there a certain Torah that women have? Is it a different Torah? Is it the same Torah? What is the Torah of the Jewish woman? I think it's very, very clear that the Torah of the Jewish woman is spoken about. The pasuk says in Mishlei, Shma b'ni musar avicha, v'al titosh toiras imecha. Listen, my son, to the Torah of, to the rebuke, the musar of your father, v'al titosh, and don't disregard the Torah of your mother. So two things hit us very clearly. I spoke about this yesterday at the Beis Yaakov. There was a mother and daughter luncheon, and I spoke with this part. It's not what I'm going to focus on particularly today, but we mentioned this. There apparently is a musar avicha. When the father speaks, he speaks in a tone of rebuke, whatever that means. I don't think that means negativity necessarily. Musar means to guide somebody along, but al titosh, don't disregard or push away the Torah of your mother. So that means there is a Toras imecha. So the question is, what is that Torah of the mother? Second of all, I think that we need to understand, why does it say a term of al titosh? Don't push it away. If Shlomo Melech is telling you to listen to your father's rebuke, he can also tell you to listen to your mother's Torah. It's in a negative type of a way. And don't push aside the Torah of your mother. Apparently, and I think that we all have this feeling sometimes, apparently the Torah of the mother is something that people seem to neglect. They seem to say, yeah, it's not such an important thing. And Shlomo Melech is telling you directly, just don't push it aside. And I was thinking, what is the Torah of the mother? And I'll say it in brief, the thought I said yesterday, and then head to a little bit more to the practical. You know, it's interesting that the Rosh is a Rishon, and the Rosh's tafkid, what he did in the Gemara, is that he took all the Gemaros, he's a Rishon, and then he combined all the commentaries of his Rebbeim, and then he told you the final psak, the final ruling of what the halacha is at the end. And he would often quote, my Rebbe says that this is the halacha here, and in this particular dilemma, this halachic situation, this is the ruling of this particular rabbi and this particular Rishon. And that's in most instances, but there are some times that the Rosh, when he has to say his psak, he says, v'nirali. It appears to me that this is the way to do it, that this is the halacha. And he doesn't quote a source, he just says, v'nirali, it appears to me. And my Zayd Zatzal used to say that when the Rosh quotes his Rebbe, when he quotes a certain source for his ruling, for his psak halacha, then you have a very definitive source for why the Rosh said what he said. But when the Rosh says v'nirali, then the source for the Rosh, it appears to me, the source for that halacha is Kol Torah Kula. It's everything that the Rosh has embedded in his personality, in his Torah mind, in his whole spiritual being. That is what the Rosh is using to combine and conglomerate and to mesh together in order to say, this is what I think the halacha is. Please don't ask me for something specific. The Rosh has the right to say, this is the way it appears to me. And I wanted to suggest perhaps that might be Torah Simecha. Because the Lashon of Torah, what is the Lashon of Torah? Torah comes from the Lashon of Hora'ah, which is the same as somebody that paskins a halacha, a dayan, a judge, is called a mora, hora. A teacher is called a mora. Why is it a mora? Because the source is from Lashon Re'iyah, seeing. It's a certain vision, it's a certain overview, outlook. That's where the Lashon of Torah comes from. Maybe Torah Simecha is a Torah that you can't pinpoint. But you know something? It's just taking everything that you are, taking the way you were raised, and the way your parents taught you, or you saw your grandparents do it, or your teachers, or your rebbeim, or your family members, the sfarim that you read, the rebbeim that you consult, the research that you've done, your gut motherly feeling. That is the Torah of a mother. And you know something? We all know that when you come, when your son's about to go play baseball, or about to go on a hike, and you say, Yaakov, take a coat. What do you mean, Ma? It's boiling outside. I said, take a coat. Please, Mom, take a coat. Please take a coat. No. Runs out, forgets his coat. And then a half an hour later, you get a phone call from like some cell phone number that you don't know because he borrows it from the game. So, Ma, can you bring over my coat? It's freezing. Told you so. I'm amazed that sometimes, like, my child walks into the house, and I hug him up, and I say, "How was the day in school?" And my wife looks at him and says, "What's the matter?" "I don't feel well, Mom." I see you don't feel well. Well, here, let me. And here I am saying, "How do you know he doesn't feel well?" It's just, and then she puts her lips on his forehead, and says, he's got about 101.2. And I'm running to the medicine cabinet to take out the thermometer to wash it over with alcohol. You don't need the thermometer. Here's some. I have some amoxicillin from the last time around. I said, "Well, you gonna give him? You gonna give him antibiotic?" "Yeah, he has strep." You open up your mouth for a second. Just really, yeah. Okay. Yeah, he has strep. It's not mine. Let's call the doctor. Ask him if he could just fill his. If he wants to see him, we'll see him. I said, "How do you know?" I asked her, "How do you carry no, he has to go to the doctor. I need to go." I schlep. 5 minutes later, like the 3-minute test, because it's positive. You should put him on antibiotics. He's on okay, I'll put him on antibiotics. I'll tell him. You know what? That's Torah Simecha. And I don't believe all of us are really, really confident enough, because it's easy for me to tell you to be moms, because then I can go do whatever I want to do. But sometimes, like, that's the Torah Simecha. The Musar of a father is also specific, and you need it, because it focuses perhaps on specifics and how to put on his tefillin, and how much time he should be doing his review, and to take him out to play ball, and to spend some recreational time with him, and 3 halachas a day, 2 mishnayos a day, review 4 prakim of Girsa every night. That's Musar Avicha. But Torah Simecha is just general. It's just like, speaking about Erev Shavuos, Zvi Kamenetzky Zatzal was a very, very firm believer that despite the fact that we have an obligation to educate and be machanech our children, which means they wear tzitzis, they do Netilas Yadayim, they say Kriyash Ma'alamita, and they take them to davening, there's no mitzvah chinuch on any mitzvah that has a physical effect on a child. Never ever let a kid under bar mitzvah fast. There's a minute, maybe the last fast before you're 12. My kids had a very hard time when they asked my father, "Zaidi, should we fast 11?" You don't have to. If you want, you can have your eat. But there's no mitzvah chinuch on something that could physically strain a child. And to fast, there's no chiyuv to fast. When you'll be 13, we all know them when they become like 16 and a star. Oh, I wish I wouldn't have to. When you were 12, you wanted to only fast the whole day. It's just, the way it is. They're trying to get them to go to bed at night, They never want to go to bed, and then they turn 16, you can't get them out of bed. It's just, but it's a little bit of an upside-down, topsy-turvy world, but someone once came to Zvi Kamenetzky with their son, who was 9 years old. He says, "I'm having a little bit of a debate with my wife. I think that he should stay up the entire night. He should stay up the whole night. It's Shavuos night. And the minhag goes to stay up the whole night. We have to educate the child what it means to stay up the whole night, so he'll sleep the whole night. And my wife says, "No, you can't keep a child up the entire night. He's 9 years old. You can't. You know what you do with his whole system and his whole schedule, and he'll be nuts for 2 days, and I don't mean nuts, I wouldn't say it a nice way. He'll be behaviorally challenged for perhaps an extended period of time, that according to statistics, it may affect somehow his performance in school for the next week." But Rosh Hashiva, I say, so Zvi Kamenetzky didn't give this man his what he wanted. I said, "How can you keep up a child for a whole night? Do you realize what kind of an effect it could have on a kid?" I mean, obviously, I'm not here to paskin this shiloh, right? Because if your wife, if you agree for him to stay up, and your child, that's Torah Simecha, and that's what I'm really getting to. But Rabbi Yaakov said to him, "You don't understand what kind of an effect it could have on a child, and if your wife feels so, then." And then he continued to say, "When I was a kid, I stayed up the whole night." Rabbi Yaakov said, "When I was a kid, you don't know what kind of effect, negative effect that had. When I was a young child, I stayed up a whole." So the person was quick to say to him, "Oh, so you see, Rosh Hashiva didn't have any effect on you." And you know what he answered him? "How do you know it didn't have any effect on me? You're taking for granted, because of who I am, that I could not have become something bigger? You can't jump to that assumption. I believe that maybe it did have a negative effect. Don't just look at the outside picture and jump on it and say, oh, look, he's the Gadol. He stayed up a whole night. I'm telling you, don't, because I stayed up a whole night, and you never know what kind of a negative effect it can have. Here are Gadol talks. And you have a right as a mother to say, I know this kid needs more sleep. You have a right to say, this boy doesn't need to be going to this place for his recreation. He could do it just fine another way. You know, it's so fascinating. The other day, we had a Lag BaOmer trip in school. And, you know, I remember all the different Lag BaOmer outings. We used to go march in Crown Heights. For the, you know, that was the Lag BaOmer outing, the big parade. That was, you know, in the 60s, if you remember those big parades there was, you know, there was something very, you know, engaging in the Lag. But you know, there's a new generation that we live in. You know, now Lag BaOmer is a trip to an amusement park or some fun, and schools are investing a lot of money and people have to spend a lot. And a few women got together and said, you know what, we're going to have, like the way Rabbi Akiva had. We're going to have a nice bonfire, right? We're going to have a nice bonfire, and we're going to go to the park, and we're going to go hiking. And that's the way the Lag BaOmer trip worked out. The boys went and they got themselves physically involved because a few women said, you know something, that's what the children need. And it's a very, very refreshing approach to be able to listen to somebody that says, we know kids. And this is really what they need. They don't need a lot. But they need someone that understands them, that Torah Simecha. And I believe that that would be the second stage of this particular series. We spoke last week about tefillah, and there's nothing to talk about. There's a certain tefillah, there's a certain a passion that we have in our ruchnius. But the second stage is, I really believe that every mother needs to really feel empowered, that they begin to understand and to evaluate the needs of their family, and to write your own Torah, to write a mission statement, to write a creed that you believe with all of the ruchnius and gashmius, knowing the limitations and resources perhaps that you may have, that the summer's coming up. Let's sit down and let's really plan it out. Let's look how we could decide, this is what our family stands for. This is the education that I want my children to have in this challenging or opportune time of the summer. And it may be just a lot of words, but I believe that it's definitely possible. And I want to just give just a practical way for us to be able to create an approach, a certain overall description of what will guide me in the way I'm going to prepare and plan for the summertime. And I think it's found in this week's Parsha. So it's a little bit late. We started a little bit late. I apologize. I know there's probably a lot of chaos rising in people's kitchens now, Erev Shavuos and cheesecakes and whatever it may be. I'll say it in brief. But it's interesting. In this week's Parsha, Parshas Naso, it speaks about the Nazir. A Nazir is somebody who accepts upon himself certain restrictions of materialistic interaction with the world. If it's drinking wine and his contact with tumah, things that are impure, and his taking care of his physical beauty and appearance, lets his hair grow, in order to try to achieve a higher spiritual level. And the pasuk says that on the day of Imlos Yemei Nizro, on the day that he fulfills his Naziros, Yavi Oso El HaKohen, he should bring him to the Kohen. And the question is, the pasuk shouldn't say on the day that he fulfills his days of being a Nazir, he should bring him. It should say, he should come to the Kohen. Why does it use the terminology of third person? And I saw a very interesting pshat. Meshech Chochmah says, because it's very difficult for a person who's working on self-improvement and really employing methods, whether it's, let's say, it's a diet, you're trying to lose weight. So you know something, after a month or two, you say, you know something, I lost my 3.5 pounds, I'm ready now. I don't think anybody's ever said that, but the truth of the matter is that if we don't have some outside perspective to be able to look at our growth and what we've achieved, so we tend to become a little bit lax in our goals. So sometimes the Nazir, if he would say, something, okay, I accept upon myself this Nazirus in order to strive and become closer to Hashem, so you know what, I think I'm fine, I'm there. That's what the Pasuk says. When he's ready to finish, he should bring him. Meaning, you have to take an outside perspective, have somebody look at you from the outside and look at you and say, you know something, you're there, you're close to it. And I believe that that's really the key in any time that we really would like to plan out and have something productive, is that we need somebody else to work with us, that understands us and that we can really share with. We feel that they're on the same level. It's really called a really good friend. Our husbands, our spouses not always are on that same wavelength, especially when it comes to these activities where maybe they will not have the time to participate at the same level because there's different interests. And we're talking about planning obviously together with your husband and together with whoever else will be joining in this process. There's no suffix. You can't go ahead and make a whole summer of activities without having the whole family together at certain points. But the men are working throughout the summer, and it's sometimes difficult, but let's say if it's a Sunday. But I believe a really good friend that you feel shares your hashkafos, and if you don't have one, you should find one. We should all be able to find someone that we could relate to, that understands us, that at the summertime, it happens to be a great time. You get to look out your window, you get to see a lot of people walking now. All of a sudden you get to see, who the chavrusas are in the neighborhood. You see husbands and wives, you see two men walking, and you see women walking, sometimes you see a woman walking by herself with her chavrusa. And so some of them you see, like the men, I'm serious, either the women are listening to music, which gives them a beat, sometimes they're listening to Rabbi Orlowitz, or to some other parenting share, or whatever, I don't know. I think there are even now these glasses that you see them, it's virtual, and you could, whatever, you could just watch a person sometimes I was once in the supermarket, and I see a lady, she's picking vegetables, and she's talking to the vegetables. She's picking up the thing, she's squeezing grapefruit. Yeah, right, yeah. I think it's really good. But maybe the yellow one. See if this yellow one. I see her picking, a more yellow grapefruit. And then I see she's got something in her ear. She's got Bluetooth in her ear. I thought, they say you should speak to your plants because they grow better. But it's really, really good to have somebody during this time to sit and plan that knows you, and enables us to really solidify what our mission is. That's maybe the lesson we could learn from the Nazir, that as we're mapping out, we've davened Baruch Hashem, we've begun to realize that we also have a Torah. We also have a right to put our foot down and say, I believe that this is what our kids need. Just like we look at them and we say, he needs to get into bed, we could look at them and say to him, and when we get a phone call comes in, Rabbi Kamenetzky or Rebbe, is it okay for my son to not have to do his homework tonight? He really, really worked hard. I want to know if he could have a day off. Who else knows better than a mother? It doesn't work if, like, they call it every single night and say, but something that's a real gift to be able to discern and say, this boy feels so accomplished, so wonderful. He'd really feel like somebody's recognizing his activities if he can skip one night, or if maybe you could find some time and take him out for pizza. Know really what the children need, and then you begin to gather your information and your calendar. But once we have that Torah Simecha, and we're empowered to realize that we have a global look and we have the year of the rush, that's Torah Simecha. And Shlomo Melech says, don't push it away. Don't think it's small. He may be telling it to our children, but I think we as parents have to understand that we have our children, we need to be able to feel empowered to educate them, to instill in them all of that vision that we have for their future. And Ritz Hashem, just as Klal Yisrael had the men and the women, and each one of them participated in their which way, in order for us to be able to become this Am Segula, this special treasure nation of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, here, in this day and age, as we relive that Kabbalah Satira, our participation in this wonderful Yom Tov, and in this tremendous, tremendous undertaking of raising our children with what we've accepted at Har Sinai, that will enable us in Mitzvah Hashem soon to ultimately greet Mashiach. Have a good Yom Tov.